Welcome back to the Alliance Gold Digger podcast. I'm your host, Rachael Oyer, co-owner of Alliance Prosthetics and Orthotics. Today, I'm thrilled to have Noreen Zulaica, a dedicated pediatric therapist and the founder and owner of Tender Ones Therapy, a highly respected practice that's been serving families for more than 20 years. With offices in Atlanta, Dacula, and Gainesville, Tender Ones has built a reputation for patient-centered care, innovative programs, and a compassionate team committed to helping every child reach their highest potential. Thanks for joining us, Noreen. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you, Rachel. It's great to be here with you.
Well, I'm really excited because Noreen and I have known each other since we started, and we have had this beautiful relationship that's really founded off of Jason and I bringing baked potatoes to their office, which is kind of a wild story. But when we started our company, we had 2 pennies to rub together, and we were trying to serve our referral sources, and I made salad and baked potato, and your office allowed me to come in and serve you all this baked potato bar and salad.
Yes. And cookies.
And cookies. And it just developed a strong relationship of caring for kiddos in need of orthotic intervention. And I wondered if you could tell us how you started TOTS.
Sure. Just to give you a little background information about me. Don't know if you know, I was born and raised in the Bronx, and I graduated from NYU in 1988 with a bachelor's in physical therapy. And at that time, a few years later, my family, we decided to move to Georgia. So that was in 1998. And my 2 children, I have 2 sons, Brandon and Nicholas, and they were 1 and 3 at that time. So they're really Georgia boys now. And I've loved Georgia since the moment I stepped off the plane. Mm-hmm. So Brandon lives in Arizona, and Nicholas is actually living in Germany right now. Mm-hmm. And I live in Brazelton with my husband, Brian, and our 2 dogs, Missy and Coco, and they come to work with me, and they're a real inspiration to the children. And Brian is a big help administratively with me in running Tender Ones. Yeah. So, and we love to go out on the lake, play golf. So that's just a little background about me. I started Tender Ones in 2003. At that time, my children were getting older. They were going into school full time. And I was thinking, okay, I love pediatric therapy. I was working for a private practice all about kids in Lawrenceville. And I have great respect for the owners, Amy Eblin and Amy LoCicero. And they really inspired me and motivated me to start my own practice. Mm-hmm. So I did that in 2003. And the reason is I think that I love to know how something is done from start to finish. Yeah. And I wanted to know every in and out of providing high quality therapy to children with special needs. And I wanted to be able to do that on my own terms. And my mission was to create a company that if I had a child with special needs, that this is where I would want to bring my child. That the company supported their therapists, motivated them, encouraged them to learn the latest techniques, use the best equipment, whatever a child with special needs to reach their goals. I wanted to make sure that that's the company that we were building. So that was what my mission was.
That's beautiful. I love that because that's how Jason and I started. Is very similar. We wanted to do it in a way that if our child needed orthotics or prosthetics, this is how they would be treated and what would matter to us. And I don't think people know all of the ins and outs of starting a company.
Right.
In 1998, it might have been a little different than 2016 when we started. What were kind of the first obstacles you had to go through?
Well, fortunately, I feel like God really leads me in a direction of what I can handle and build at a steady pace. So I started with myself, and then I was introduced to a therapist that was an OT, and one of the child I was treating needed OT. So she became my first independent contractor.
Yeah.
And we just started to build like that. So I think controlled growth is really important, and managing the growth, and because you need to know every in and out of running the company. And that was always very important to me. So I had to learn, how do you do authorizations? How do you do credentialing? And I did all of that backbone of the company, so that I know exactly what needs to be done as I hire someone to help me do those things. So I think that's really important when you're growing a company. And I've spoken to some owners who never knew even how to do an authorization. And I think that can be not good, because if that person walks out the door, you need to know how to do every part of your company. So it's real. It also means a lot to me, because then I know what they're dealing with through their day.
Right.
Like the difficulties of scheduling patients, the difficulties of following up with appointments and confirmation, the difficulty with authorizations, the frustration with insurance companies and denials. So I have learned how to do all of those tasks, so that I can assist them and support them, and also know where they're coming from.
I think that's an amazing testimony, and it is detrimental if you don't understand the business that you've been entrusted to serve and care for patients, because really it's all about patients and their outcomes, and it helps you understand what the patients need and developing a practice that supports them. I wondered, I know anecdotally that you started in your basement.
Yep.
Tell me, and one of your passions is intensives. Where did that come from, and how did you start in your basement? And then for our audience, there's these amazing, beautiful buildings that we get the privilege to be next door to one of them. They're incredible. Tell us about building spaces for your people.
So I always was open to ideas from parents and suggestions. And I feel like many of the parents of the children I was treating early on in my practice, I learned so much from them. And parents who have a newly diagnosed child with special needs, they start doing research, and they find out, how can I help my child? And they would bring different programs or equipment to me, and I would say, I've never heard of that, but let me do some research and see what is that all about. So I was treating this little boy, Brandon. He was about 4 years old, and his mother, Melanie, told me that she had found out about intensive therapy programs, and that there was one in Florida. And I said, this sounds like a great concept. Why don't you go? This sounds wonderful. I looked up the company. What was the program about? I said, it can't hurt. It can only help in his progress. So Melanie took Brandon to Florida, and she came back, and she said, you can do this. You need to just go get trained. So I said, okay, fine. Because it was dropped in my path, and I felt like when those things happen, that's what I need to follow. So I looked up a company that did the program. They're called TheraSuit, and they're located in Michigan. And I went to Michigan for a week. I was trained in suit therapy and intensive therapy program. And I came back to Georgia. I bought all of the equipment that I needed to do the program, the universal exercise unit, and I put it up and set it up in my basement. So I had this one room of therapy, and I started doing intensive with my patients that I had on my caseload. And Brandon was one of them. And then Melanie told her friend Anna Marie, who told her friend, who told her friend. And I had these families coming to me for the intensive program. And I said, well, it looks like I need a real office space because I've been doing this for 6 months and they're scheduling out for a year. So I opened my first clinic, which was only 1,400 square feet in Dacula, and started adding more therapists who working with me. And we outgrew our space within 4 years and realized we really need to double our space. So we moved over to Terran Trace, which was our 3,500 square feet clinic at that time. And we just started adding more therapists who had the same mission and vision of us, of to provide good quality therapy. And we hold probably about 12 intensive therapy programs every week, and we do it 52 weeks a year. And we are scheduling into 2026, even into early 2027 shortly. So and I think the reason for that is because we have all had a passion for intensive, and the beauty of an intensive program is that these children are coming to get therapy 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 2 to 3 weeks. Sometimes they even do a 4-week program.
Wow.
And when you have a child with special needs, for them to learn a skill, they need a much higher repetition to learn that skill than a typical child. So if your typical child practices doing a skill 100 times, the child with special needs is going to need to practice it 1,000 times. So when you're providing therapy on a weekly basis and you're only seeing that child for 1 hour, then another week goes by, they've lost some of the knowledge of the skill that you worked on last week. It's like the summer slide for children going to school over the summer, right? So that's what happens to that child week to week in regular therapy. So you have them only for that hour. And there's so many portions of therapy that you want to work on to build the skills that the hour, there's just not enough time. So the beauty of the intensive, and this is why I fell in love with it in the beginning, is that I had that child for 3 hours and I could focus on every little portion of therapy that I knew would help this child. So we have a very structured program, and it is tailored to what a child needs, but each therapist follows a program of, we start off with heat and massage and stretching, and then we move into the developmental sequence, and we can practice every single position that we need to because we have the time. So we'll work on rolling and sitting up and hands and knees, and so we progress it. And then we'll move to strengthening exercises using the universal exercise unit and doing strengthening exercise because children with special needs are typically very weak and they don't get the repetition to build the strength through the muscles. So now in the intensive program, we are really exercising and building strength. And then we progress to standing activities in the cage. And we love the cage for doing supported standing because a child who cannot stand at all, we can put them and suspend them in the universal exercise unit, put splints on their legs, attach bungees to the pelvic band, and they get to experience upright standing without someone holding them. So this is sometimes a very unique experience for a child who has never stood on their own. And you can really then give them the freedom of movement in standing in the cage. And they love it. Kids love to jump in the cage. So it makes therapy fun. And we're very play-based. As we're doing all these exercises and activities, it's all play-based centered therapy to encourage the child and motivate them. So we have them for those 3 hours, and then they come back tomorrow. And we're able to repeat it 5 days a week for 2 to 3 weeks. And parents love the program. We love the program. And parents have bought into the program because they see progress that would typically take 6 months for their child to make. They'll see it in 2 weeks.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I don't think our audience realizes, though, that you treat people all over our nation. They come into your offices, and how that even started and the word of mouth. I would love for you to talk about that.
It is a lot of word of mouth. It is also our presence on social media. But I will tell you, I've also treated a child that came from South Africa.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Of course you did.
Yes. And it was about 10 years ago. And the parent was just doing research on the internet, came across our website, and a YouTube video, called up our front office and said, I'm from South Africa. How can I get my child into this program? So, of course, we were a little concerned, like, okay, is this real? Is someone really going to travel from South Africa? And we had a phone call with the parent, and it was, and they came. The parent, they brought their 4-year-old daughter at that time, and she did an intensive program with us, and then we made some recommendations to see some specialists here in the United States, and she ended up coming back the next year, having surgery, doing more intensive with us. And we've actually heard back from them very recently, and they would like to come back for an intensive. And we're also going to try a kind of a hybrid program of doing a consulting with their physiotherapist in South Africa to try to do a virtual intensive program with her.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So we're figuring out the logistics of that, but that should be happening over the next few months.
I love this. I love that you are always willing to collaborate. That is just a gift that you give our professional relationship as well as those around us. And so I know there's other organizations that you work with to ensure parents have a great experience. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about the heartbeat behind collaboration and why that is so essential to Tender Ones.
Well, I feel that the parents of special needs children are taxed so much by appointments and going to specialists, and they look to us to find out who do we recommend they go see. And they're taxed with a very unknown future for their child. Right. So it's really important that we can give them the information and the professionals to collaborate with so that their child gets all the services that they need. So it's really important, and has always been very important for me, to develop relationships with doctors, orthotists, other specialists, because when I have that relationship with them and I understand what they're doing and they provide high quality service, then I can support that parent and saying, yes, this is the specialist that you should go see. This is the orthotist that you should go see. And it also opens the doors to communication with that specialist. When I can get on the phone and talk to the orthotist about what type of bracing I feel the child needs and what their recommendation is, that makes providing that service so much more efficient to the parent. They are trusting my knowledge. They're trusting the specialist knowledge on who they're going to. And you just end up with better consistency with the parent and the therapist and the child. And you know that you're giving all the information that parent needs. If I was a parent of special needs child, I would hope that the therapist would tell me, this is what's out there. These are your options. And I can't give that information to a parent if I don't know and I haven't made those relationships. And I have it with all of those partners.
Oh, that's such a positive add-on that you give patients. And one of our uniques is that is our same heartbeat. So when we started, Jason and I, actually our oldest, had a really difficult medical diagnosis, and we ended up going to a lot of specialists, and you go to so many appointments. It is very taxing. And so if you can couple appointments, PT, speech, everything together, and then you just walk over and get your orthotics, or you have, I know you do a lot of feeding tube stuff and wheelchair fitting and different, making sure people know their resources. You do a great job on your website, as well as all of your staff has been incredible at helping people know how do you get connected. And then the support. I think Tender Ones supports every single nonprofit that your patients are a part of. And I see it because we share a lot of mutual patients. And of course, Tender Ones is there.
Yes.
Of course, Tender Ones is there. And
Right.
I love that about you.
Right.
Is that from the same vein that you want to be wherever your patients are?
Yes, definitely. Because we want to show that we support them. We support all of the different communities. We have awareness days at the office.
Yeah.
And when parents bring an organization to us, we want to support them and show up when that walk is. We have many therapists who support the Kyle Pease Foundation.
Yep.
And we then support Kyle Pease and other organizations and walks. And I think it makes a big difference to a parent when they see their therapist showing up at that spina bifida walk. And when we get to see those patients there and they get to see the therapist out of context, not, they're not in therapy. And, sometimes it's funny that the patient, the child may go, "Oh no, why are you here?"
Right.
But it's like, no, we're here to support you. We're running in this also. We're not going to do therapy today. It's okay. Relax.
You're not going in the cage.
But yes, we really feel that there's so many organizations that are trying to help our parents, like the Love Your Story organization.
Yep.
And we've really partnered with them because they found that there was a need to provide housing for children and families when they come to intensive. So our coordinator has a great relationship with the owners, the founders of Love Your Story. And she calls her up and says, "I have this family that's coming from California. Can you help them with some housing while they're here for intensive?" And that's just removes a burden on the parent financially. Yep. And also it creates community where Abby Burrell, the founder of Love Your Story, she makes sure that parent is well supported while they're staying in their house, the Love Your Story house, and doing intensive. So it just becomes more resources for our parents that are coming to us when we have those relationships with all those organizations.
That's so beautiful. And I hear just your heart for people. Where does that come from, Noreen? What drives you to care so deeply for people?
I guess, growing up, I come from a healthcare family.
Yeah.
Lots of doctors, nurses, therapists. And so we have I think my parents instilled a giving heart in all of us, and to help. And that, for me, when I can, that's where my drive is, when I can help somebody, if I can help a parent, if I can help them just make progress with their child in therapy, that gives so much meaning to me, to life. Mm-hmm. And as I have grown the company, I really feel like when I can support my therapists, that they then can do the same and give the same support to their families. Mm-hmm. So with our company, it's extremely vital and important to us that we fully support our therapists in whatever programs they want to learn. If they want to instill a new program, we say, bring it to us. Let us help you reach your goals. Mm. Because I can't treat every patient. And when we can support these therapists to then know that they're well supported, that they can learn new techniques, they can support their parents, they can instill new programs. It's just multifold.
No,
right.
It's
and it
wonderful.
Evolves.
I love that. I don't think our listeners know. I know because your sweet sister treated my son. How many family members do you have working at TOTS now?
Yes. So I'm one of 5 siblings,
mm-hmm.
and 2 of my sisters, Teresa and Patricia, are both speech therapists.
Yep.
And fortunately for me, I was able to convince them to relocate to Georgia over the last 10 years. And they both have moved here. They live in Brazelton, very close to me. And they work with me at Tender Ones. And they are a big support in the administration system of Tender Ones and the support system to the therapists. And then they're also awesome speech therapists.
They are. I love Patricia. She has a piece of my heart because she treated my son. And I just think that you guys have a wonderful working relationship. And the support that you give each other is just wonderful. My mom is actually from New York. So that's another big factor of loving being with Patricia, she reminded me of my mother's sisters and my mom in a lot of ways, because my mom grew up in Long Island and was born in Queens, and we would go to New York every summer and winter, and it just is a beautiful thing to share that fun-loving New York City accent, Long Island accent. And I always remarked about Patricia's perfume. It reminded me of my mom. So when I was going in for care for my son, and it felt like home.
Oh.
And I've always felt that. And so we've gone to a bunch of offices, and of course we work alongside each other. You have this unique gift to make it feel like home. What is that?
Yes. Well, that was really important to me
Mm-hmm.
as I've grown the company. I want every patient that walks in that door to feel like this is their family. And we call it's the TOTS family. So from every staff member that works there to every patient that walks in the door, we want everybody to feel like this is your second home.
Yeah.
Because first of all, the staff are there the majority of their time through the week, right? And then the patients, many of them come from multiple therapies, and they're coming for years of therapy. And you have to, we know how their life is, that coming to therapy is such a commitment. And we want to know that we're so happy that they're there.
Yeah.
So we make and I try to do it, and I know all my staff does
They
it,
do.
that as a patient walks in, or if I'm walking through the gyms, and I'll stop a therapist and say, tell me his name, or I'll ask the child, what is your name? So that I can get to know them and know their face with their name. And then we all do it. We're like, hi, Christopher. Hey, John, it's so great to see you. And that makes it so much more special for that patient too, and that child. Because if everyone is motivating them around them, like, hey, you're walking down the aisle, the hall, you're doing awesome.
Yeah.
And if I'm able to say them by their name, then they know that means a lot to them. Like, this is home. This is a place for you to know that you're well loved and taken care of. And I think a lot of that comes from, I had an experience with a parent walk into the office, and he was he was a new patient to our office. And I could tell he was on the defense.
Yeah.
That he was ready to just fight for what his child needed. And I think it really stuck to me. And I said to other people in the front office, I said, we don't know what his day has been like. He may have just picked up his child from school, and they have told this parent, this is all the terrible things that your child did today.
Yeah.
Okay? And he knows that his child has special needs, and he knows his child has challenges and behaviors. And now he's coming to us, and he's just waiting for us to say, no, I can't see this child, or this is what your child did. And that is not how we approach it. We say, no, this is their safe space, and this is your safe space. And we are going to help and try to help this child as best we can. And we know that your daily life is very challenging. So we always look at it that way, that, this might be a difficult session with this child, but let's think about what that parent is going through daily. So how can we support that parent when we're working with this child for an hour? And many parents, and even this one, will say, I'm so sorry if he's screaming, or if he's doing this or he's doing that. And we're like, no need to apologize. This is the safe space. We get it. We totally get it.
Yep.
And especially new parents coming, they know when they take their child out to dinner and it's so difficult because their child is screaming or has bad behaviors or something like that.
Yep.
And now they're going to a new therapy place and they're like, oh no, now they're going to see these behaviors. We want them to feel like this is your safe space. Look, we get it. And the kids we don't mind the screaming. It's just like, okay, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, it's part of your job.
It's part of our job. Where
you're designed for it. I think I've noticed that because some of our patients that are similar, and just how they speak about your therapist and the hospitality that you guys give your parents and the patients. So much so, I love telling the story. When you opened your new space in Dacula, one of your pride and joys is the changing table.
Yes.
And I love that, and how much it mattered to you to make sure parents had a safe place to change their adult children.
Right.
And that it really was an effort to make sure parents had what they needed to be able to do therapy. And you prepare for parents.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for you to brag. I know you don't get to brag enough, but our listeners need to know to the degree that you've prepared for them.
Well, when we were building our big, beautiful building that we have, that's 10,000 square feet,
yep.
We really surveyed our staff and our parents. And we asked the staff, what do you think we need in this building? How does this need to be set up? And we asked from the front office to every therapist in the building. Mm-hmm. And because they're going to hear the feedback from the parents of what they want. And one of the requests from parents was, I would love to have a safe changing space for my child who is 15, who needs to still be changed and toileted. And so we did some research, and we said, okay, well, we're going to get that high-low changing table, and we have it in our we're going to put the bathroom in the waiting room, and we're going to put this high-low table there for those parents so that they are able to safely change their full-size child, their child that's maybe a teenager and that they need to change. So that's just one of the little things that we listen to. And I think it gives back to us when we see that we've just made this parent's life that much easier.
Yeah.
And all those little things that we do.
I think it goes to your belief system, though, because you really love the children that you all get to serve. And I see that. And you and I sit in rooms where people wonder, does their life matter? I know I've
Mm-hmm.
had parents say this to me, and that they were told in multiple appointments how this is going to be inconvenient.
Oh, my goodness.
And we get to sit on the other side and say their life has so much purpose.
Right.
And we're so grateful that you trust us with their care. I wondered if you have a parent or a patient with being HIPAA compliant that really impacted you, that reminds you kind of your why when you go into work.
Yes, every patient I've treated, of course. I've learned so much from parents and patients. But I do have, there's a little boy that I started treating when he was 7 years old. His name is Jacob. And his parents brought him to me. He's significantly delayed and physically impaired. And this family has inspired me so much. And I have been working with Jacob. I still work with him. He's 30 years old. And Mom, Dad, and Jacob come every week for therapy. And I've learned so much from Jacob and his family. And Jacob is nonverbal, and he cannot sit alone. He cannot stand alone. And what they taught me was patience. And I learned this 20 years ago when I first started working with him. And I was always a patient person, but they really taught me patience because they knew their child so well that if you just allowed him enough time, he will make a vocalization in response to your question. He will move as how you want him to move. And I'm a very busy person. Okay, let's get this done. Let's go over here. Let's move. Let's go to the next thing. And they taught me to slow down and wait. And with the beauty of that is then you see these little, what could be surprises of, he's going to sing happy birthday to me. He's going to say hi if I took the time to just wait and see. And that's where it just you learn the meaning of how every person is so special and how they do have meaning, and that their relationship of coming into my life has changed my life so much.
I know. That's such a beautiful story. I love that you carry that with you. And I experienced you only as patient. So thank you, Jacob, because I've always appreciated that about you, is you take your time to make a decision. You take your time to think through. And I think it brings forth the freedom even for other people around you not to feel hurried, because you're not frenzied trying to get to the next thing, that we all can, okay, we can take some time and think about it. We don't have to make a decision right now.
Right.
That kind of brings me to my next thought is, you counsel so many parents and you see a variety of patients. I wondered if you could encourage a parent who potentially got a really hard diagnosis and they don't know where to start, and they don't know anybody who has special needs. And I know you have had this experience. We've had this experience. They don't know about the services that are available and where do you start? And would you give some encouragement and some practical tips?
Well, of course, they can go to our website, tenderonestherapy.com, and there's a lot of resources on that. And it shows the services that we have, but we also have a blog on there, and it gives information about what milestone are they achieving. Will they maybe need therapy? Are they reaching these goals? This goes back to why we collaborate with so many of our partnerships with other organizations, is because when a parent comes to us and we can see the struggle that they're having, we want to be able to tell them, hey, contact this organization. I recently was talking to a parent, and I could see financially the burden of the copay on them, and they had a newly diagnosis of autism for their child who's only 2. And the burden of getting that diagnosis and saying, how is his future going to be? And financially, how can I pay for therapy? And so what we do, and I was speaking with him, fortunately, and I said, let me get you information about Katie Beckett, the waiver. Let me put you in contact with this group of people and find out, just start doing your research and reaching out. So we really want to be resources for parents so that they know that they can come to us, ask us what their challenge is, and we want to be able to give them the resources.
No, that's so important. And it was a perfect segue into the insurance reimbursement area, which I think most parents, even if you have typical kids, insurance reimbursement is challenging, let alone having to navigate how to fill out a waiver like Katie Beckett. And we had a mutual patient's mom, Kristen Winsler, on, and she talked about, in your office, actually, a mom helped her navigate and figure out how to fill out the form, and that other moms, and you've created this community of moms at Tender Ones that help each other. So when newly diagnosed kiddos come into your clinic, they find more, I call it veteran moms.
Yes.
Who know the ropes.
Yes.
What would you say is kind of the most important thing a parent needs to do with insurance reimbursement, first and foremost?
Well, one thing we do for our parents is we try to take the burden off of them of worrying about financially what their cost participation is going to be. We make sure that we verify their benefits, and we talk to the parents up front before receiving services. This is what your cost participation is going to be. We tell the parents, we are going to take care of the authorizations. You come to therapy. Unless we call you to say there's no authorization from insurance, you don't worry about it. We've got it covered. And when there is a difficulty with insurance and they are saying no more insurance, no more benefits, then we encourage the parent to reach out to their insurance company and get documentation from their physician. And also, they can also reach out to their employer, because sometimes employers can have a relationship with the insurance company to let them know, I want you to provide more benefits to this parent. This child has this diagnosis. You should not be denying services for them. And it is when you have a medical diagnosis and insurance is saying you only get 20 visits of PT, well, then you are denying my child services. So parents should complain to the insurance company and demand that therapy is a medically prescribed service. And if you're not going to pay for my child to get these services, then you're denying their care.
It's so important that you know your rights and that you're able to advocate for your child. One of the things that we've done recently is a piece of legislation for parents to be able to fight for their children to have secondary devices with state-regulated insurance. It goes into effect in 2026. And because of some of the political advocacy I've been able to do, I sat in a room where a lot of legislators dreamed that Georgia would be a state where kids with special needs, it would be the best place for them to grow up. With that big dream, if you could wave a wand, Noreen, what would have to be in place in Georgia for kids with special needs to have the best outcomes here in Georgia?
Ooh, well, one of it is the authorization process.
Yeah.
20 years ago, with Medicaid, you did not have to get authorization to provide PTOT and speech. And over the years, the authorization challenge has gotten harder and harder for therapists. And currently, we have to hire people in the front just to do authorizations for Medicaid, for CMOs, for private insurance. And it's a huge burden on the company to do that. So one thing, if the authorization process was removed and children can just get the care that they need, because a doctor is going to recommend what the child needs, the therapist is going to recommend what the child needs, and is not going to take advantage of over-prescribing. They're going to prescribe what the child needs. And removing all these authorization process and these hoops that we have to jump through would be
fabulous.
Gosh, it would be fabulous.
It'd be life-changing.
Right. Let's just, provide them the services they need.
Yeah. And if a physician is prescribing it and it's within the normal means of medical practice in our scope, why wouldn't we? We experience the same thing. And so that's great to hear. So lawmakers, if you're listening, we need authorization to be removed or to less hoops for sure.
For sure.
I wanted to switch because we really haven't talked about orthotics, and that's really what we do.
Yes.
I didn't know, what was your introduction to orthotics, and when would you recommend orthotics for a patient, and kind of help parents know how that process works?
So I've always tried to work really close with the orthotists. And what I have appreciated with Alliance of us having our partnership together is Jason was so willing to come into our office and discuss what a child needs in terms of orthotics. So even years ago, when I would be thinking, okay, I think this child needs assistance with orthotics, let me reach out to this orthotist, have a discussion with him. This is what I see going on. What are your recommendations? Will you come into the office? Will you come see the child in therapy so you can see what they're doing? And so we really love having Jason and all your staff that is willing to come to our offices, whether our Gainesville office or our Dacula. And when we built our new building in Dacula, we wanted to have a lease space. And to me, it was really important to have who was going to occupy that space needed to complement our services. So we reached out to you and Jason and said, would you want to partner with us and lease this office that is attached to our building? Because as we talked about before, about how many appointments parents have to go to, if we can reduce another trip to an appointment for them, and we can partner with an orthotist that we value and appreciate his knowledge and the way that Alliance, your whole company, we feel like you align with our mission to be patient-centered and family-supported. And so we were thrilled when you guys said, yes, we'd love to have that space. And by doing that, we can have your staff come into our office during therapy and discuss the orthotics with the therapist and the patients. So to me, I'm going to go a little sidebar here. My first job when I came out of physical therapy school, I worked for the Office of Mental Retardation, Developmental Disabilities in New York State, which is an institution for adults who were born with special needs. Mm. And back in the day when children were born, it was encouraged for parents to place their children in institutions. So when I went to work there, they were not children anymore. They were adults, 40, 50 years old. And what I experienced is what happens to a child who becomes an adult who did not have the benefit of having orthotics and bracing, and what happens to the significant deformities that occur. And when I was working there, it was really important. I felt, how can I make the biggest impact on these adults? And it would be supporting them with wheelchair prescription so that they had custom molded wheelchairs, and also bracing to help protect them from further deformity. So I think that's where my buy-in to orthotics was, because it's when you have a child who's an infant, it's very difficult to foresee and understand what can happen to this skeletal system if they're not properly braced. Mm-hmm. So having that experience, it gives me background, and I try to educate therapists on the importance of prescribing orthotics for their patients. Because what I educate parents is that our role is to protect that skeletal system until they're full grown. And the way that bone matures and grows is based on the forces that are applied to it. So if you twist a bone over and over and over again, or you have high tone and you pull on a bone in a certain direction, that bone is going to deform in the way that the forces are directed upon it. So I explain to parents, it is so important to get those bones in a child's feet properly aligned so that as they grow, they will grow in the best alignment that we can hope for until they're fully grown. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that every bone is not going to still deform if you wear orthotics, but you're going to minimize the complications and the potential for severe deformities. And I know presenting orthotics to parents when they're young children and parents, it's oh no, my child needs braces. But I try to say, we wear glasses for vision difficulties. We wear braces on our teeth to straighten our teeth. And the braces are their help. They're help to the children so that they can help reach their goals. And I say, what is your goal? And if your goal is for your child to stand and walk, then let's give your child the best support so that they can reach those goals. And I am truly a believer that it's so important to put your braces on as soon as your child wakes up. You put your braces on, it gives them a foundation for standing and walking. Mm. And I try to tell a parent, if you think of a building, you have to have a good foundation, right? If you have a wobbly foundation, how is the building going to stand up? So it's the same thing. If your child's feet are collapsing, or they don't have full range of motion, or they don't have full strength, then they cannot support the rest of their body to stand up straight. And I know there is some discussion, and parents get conflicting viewpoints about bracing or not bracing.
They do.
And what I try to explain to them is that if a child has a neurological condition, that impacts on their ability to move, right? We know the child has a delay. A typical child does not need therapy to learn how to move their foot up and down. The typical child just learns how to move, learns the skills, stands, walks, and runs. Okay, when there's a neurological impact on a brain, a child has special needs, that foot cannot move up and down on their own without specifically learning it and moving it with the guidance of a therapist or the parent doing the home program. So some parents feel, and they've been told, don't brace so that the child can learn how to move. Well, if the child could learn how to move on their own, they would have done it already. Okay, so when they come to learn that skill, the therapist would work with them very specifically on, okay, this is how you move your ankle up and down. But what you also have to remember, and parents need to be educated, is that movement develops proximally to distally. And when we say that, proximally is core and shoulders and hips. And distal movement is fine motor movement, and that relates to the foot as to moving your foot up and down. So if your child does not have good core strength and cannot sit up on their own and cannot support themselves, and they don't have good hip and shoulder strength, they're not going to be able to move their foot up and down independently on their own. And when you're tasking them to learn that skill, your demand is too high for them. They're not going to be able to do it because they're trying to learn how to sit up. So give them the assistance of, let's take the demand of learning how to move your foot up and down by giving you stability of your foot. So now we give you this strong foundation with the brace. So now you can sit upright and you can come to standing and learn how to control your core and your hips without having the demand of what's going down on in your foot.
That's such good advice. And also just the education of why orthotics are so important in that intervention. It's not for every patient, and we understand that. But when it is necessary, it's important that you get it early and that you're able to work with your orthotist. We've seen patients actually exit orthotics, which is the best news when they don't need us anymore. But we also have patients who, for their lifetime, they will use orthotics, and they have all the variety of sizes, and it's like shoes and growing out of it. I wondered if you could encourage parents who are trying to find a therapy clinic or trying to find an orthotic clinic, helping them know when they found the right one. They might not be right here. If they're in our area, we think they should come to us, of course. But what would be the key indicators that you have found a place that you know it's going to treat your child and your family really well?
So for therapy, it's communication. Definitely. It's communication from the front office, communicating to the parents. And it's also the therapist communicating with the parent on what are your goals for your child. And you may have goals of, I want my child to walk independently. And the therapist should always have that goal in their mind. But they probably, and they should be talking to you and saying, okay, that's going to be our focus. But right now, in order to get to that goal, he needs to learn how to roll over. So first, our goal is going to be learn how to roll over. And then our next goal is going to be, he's going to learn how to sit up. So we're always going to have that long-term goal in our mind that we know that's what you want us to work towards. But let's break it down and let's work on the goals in steps and always looking forward. So a therapist should be in good communication with a parent, and the parent should be saying, this is what I want for my child. And the therapist should be asking, what do you want for your child? And what are your difficulties at home? Tell us how we can support you. And then ask your therapist, this is what's going on with my child. Is there something that they could be doing that we're not doing? Is there a specialist? Is there a program that they can be doing in conjunction? Asking those questions and making sure that the therapist is communicating and bringing new things to the parent, and making sure that the therapist is having discussions with you about orthotics, and the parent saying, do you think my child could benefit from orthotics? And it might be a cranial molding helmet, or it could be a spinal brace, or it could be something for their feet. And how long do I need to wear their orthotic? And who should I go to talk to? And what should we be asking? Because I think having the partnership with you all with Alliance, we know we can discuss what the patient needs. It used to be very frustrating to me before I had a relationship with all of you and other orthotists, is that a parent would just get a prescription from a doctor, go to an orthotist, and they would make an orthotic based on what the orthotist saw that day, what the child was doing. But they had no information from the therapist or from me. They didn't know what the daily activities are of the child. And when a family just walks into an orthotist and that's just a little snippet of what the child is doing for that moment. So it's really important that the orthotist is really open to having relationship and discussion with therapists so that we can find out what are the difficulties that the parents are having with the braces. Are they being consistent, and why not? And let's try to help that parent.
No, I think that's such great advice. And I think we believe in collaboration as well, because really we're an extension of every referral. When they trust us to share a patient with us, we really are there to make y'all look good and whatever it is that you need us to do. And so that collaboration is key. So if parents are looking for a team, you want people who work well together and they listen to each other. And I believe there's enough sun for everybody. And I know that's your same belief system. We get to chat at different events and say, there's too many patients to be competitive. So honestly, there's a great need in our state right now for companies to work together to serve patients really well. I think the cool thing that we get to continue to do is work alongside one another. I rarely get a microphone in my real life, and I thought maybe you don't really get a microphone every day. But to conclude our podcast, I wondered if there's any people you would like to thank, or thinking about your future with TOTS, that you just want to say thank you to, knowing that you have 20 plus years, over 100 employees now, started in your basement. Maybe there's some things that you want to just share with parents and our audience of gratitude.
Well, definitely gratitude from every staff member that works for TOTS. A lot of gratitude towards Melanie, who I mentioned earlier, because she was the one who really encouraged me to do the intensive and continue to grow the company. And I didn't mention before, but she started working for me in the front office
I know
20
Melanie.
years ago, and she is our intensive coordinator. And when it was really important for me when I first hired her. She was my first office staff member. And I knew she could support the families because she has gone through all of this, with her child, Brandon. And she knows exactly what the parents are facing, from Katie Beckett to authorizations to doing intensive programs to going to multiple appointments all the time. And it shows testament about her dedication to the company and really helping to grow that family atmosphere that you were talking about before.
Really?
Because she welcomes every intensive patient, and she knows the challenges of them traveling from out of state. And Melanie and the other staff, they all have that family approach. So I'm grateful that they all want to welcome all of the patients, just like every therapist. I'm grateful for every therapist who has been dedicated to the company, and many of them have longevity with us, which also is a testament to what they believe in the company and that they are being supported. Dr. Alyssa Walls, who's one of our PTs, has created an amazing paddleboarding program that it was the first one in the country. And she's spreading her love for paddleboarding and encouraging other companies to start these programs. And we do paddleboarding therapy with the children at the lake every summer. And they get speech therapy, OT, and PT while on the paddleboarding at the lake. And the kids love it. It gives them a chance to be in a new experience. And we also do paddleboarding camp. And it's therapists like Alyssa who just want to keep giving and growing and giving to these families and these children and starting these programs. And I'm grateful for every therapist that is not just content with doing the regular therapy day and after day. And they are the ones who are reaching out and finding new programs to help their patients. And one of them was actually Alyssa and David helped to put together a continuing ed course this spring and brought in a specialist in NICE-STIM, which is a spinal stimulation, where it's not anything internal, but it's a way to use electrical stim over the spinal cord for children with spina bifida, cerebral palsy. And we hosted this continuing ed program, and we probably have at least 10 of our PTs that are all trained in offering this spinal stimulation now. So when you have a staff who says, yes, let's go learn more and give back to our patients. And I'm just grateful for all our families and our patients who just give back to us every day.
That's beautiful, Noreen. I just thank you so much for what you're doing in our state, in our area, and our audience. If you're listening, Tender Ones is an excellent place to receive care. And if you need any help connecting, you can go to their website. And Lane, our amazing producer, she's going to link all the good stuff, social media, any way to connect with Noreen and her team. And if you're looking for a job, I know Noreen is always hiring. So
always
go to
hiring.
Always hiring good and qualified people. So please reach out to them. And again, Noreen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate you having me on today. It's been great.
Were you inspired or challenged today? If so, connect with us. Follow the links in the description box below. We want to hear from you. Until next time, thanks for listening to the Alliance Goal Digger podcast.